Greetings and welcome everyone to Sparkles and Blessings. I'm Ducky and we are about to go on to story number 37, which is part of my ongoing saga, my Stephen King years. So the last story was about how I had been watching vampire movies and other horror flicks, but didn't understand why. But then again, I remember as a child looking through. We had horror comics as a child, and they were really gross. There was one where this decrepit hand would crawl up out of a sewer, a manhole, and then his arm would run all over, crushing people. And when I saw that in the comics, that lasted on me for a little while. So when I heard that Stephen King based a lot of his stories, well, not a lot, but maybe some of his stories on Ripley's Believe It or Not, or all these comic books that came out, the genre, I could understand why that would have been so inspiring for him. The first story I have about my introduction to Stephen King was June the 4th, 1977, and I know that date for sure because I got married the day before, on June 3rd, 1977. And kind of like for our honeymoon, we didn't have a lot of money. So we got married in Allenburg, and we drove an hour and a half to Toronto. And no, Niagara Falls. We spent our honeymoon in Niagara Falls. And the next day we would go to the Eden Center, which was really new at that time. And no, we didn't have a lot of money, but we walked into a bookstore, and he pulled out this Stephen King book, and I look at it, and it's called Salem's Lot. And I'm reading the back, and it's all about a vampire, or vampires, a coven of vampires. It is so full of vampires, I say no thank you. And he says, no, I'm going to get it for you, and you're going to read it. I've read this, he said. My husband told me. I've read this. It's a really, really good book. You got to trust me on this. Okay, so we took the book. We bought the book, and the first 2 weeks of our marriage, we were preparing to go out east, where Frank had been stationed at CFB Greenwood in Nova Scotia. So I spent a lot of time reading that book, Salem's Lot. The interesting thing is, I was listening to Art Garfunkel, Angel Clare, listening to that book. So whenever I hear Art Garfunkel's voice, I immediately think of vampires and Salem's Lot. And I'm really sorry, Art, but I mean, I still love your songs. Anyway, so while I was reading it, he would say, so how are you liking the book? And I go, oh my goodness, so-and-so has just died, and so-and-so's now a vampire, and really, it's really gross. And he said, no, just keep reading. So eventually, I finished the book, and I'm just soaked, drenched in the blood of vampires. I've had enough. And so I think one day at the breakfast table, he said, did you finish the book? I said, yeah. He said, so what'd you think of it? I said, well, it didn't have to be quite so bloody, when so-and-so died, and this and so-and-so, and I elaborated a lot. That was a long time ago, 46 years ago. I don't remember much of it. But he listened to me as I was explaining the plot and the twists and the gore. And he said, really? He said, all that happened in that book? I said, yes. He said, must have been the wrong book. Yeah, 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 yeah. So that was my introduction to Stephen King, and I love Stephen King dearly. If I could meet anyone on this earth, it would be Stephen King. It used to, it's a tough toss-up between Matt Smith of Doctor Who and Stephen King, but Stephen King would just inch it out a little bit. So, I want to thank you for joining me and listening to my stories. It's good for me. I hope it's good for you. I'm doing this for my grandchildren so that I don't have to worry about forgetting my stories when I get older. They've got them all here. So with that being said, I want to thank you again. And this is Ducky from Sparkles and Blessings, out.